Before the world knew your name, before your first breath rippled across the fabric of existence, there was a moment, still, silent, immeasurable, when your soul stood in perfect alignment with its highest path. In that luminous instant, you remembered who you were, why you came, and the power that flowed through your every heartbeat. But as you journeyed through the noise of life, something happened. Not a fall, not a failure, but a forgetting. The world layered its expectations upon you like veils, and the frequency of your true self dimmed beneath the weight of fear, doubt, and distraction. This audiobook is a return, a sacred recalibration, a tuning of the inner instrument you were born to play, a remembrance of the path that has never abandoned you. These words are not teachings, but transmissions. They do not inform, they transform. They do not tell you where to go, they bring you back to where you've always been. As you listen, you will feel something ancient stirring. Beneath your ribs, a soft click, like a cosmic lock opening from within. You will sense the realignment of your energy, the reawakening of your inner compass, the rising of the frequency that has been waiting patiently for your return. This is not motivation. This is recalibration. This is the alignment frequency. Before we begin, whisper quietly to yourself, not as a request, but as a remembrance, I return to myself now. Chapter 1. The Echo of Your True Path. Before the world learned your name, before you tasted your first breath of earthly air, you walked upon a path made of pure intention. It shimmered like stardust beneath your feet, stretching across the unseen realms, like a luminous thread, woven directly from your soul's purpose. You knew this path, instinctively. It needed no map, no instruction, no explanation. It lived inside you, pulsing softly with every heartbeat, reminding you that you were born with direction, not designed to find it by accident. But as you descended into the human realm, where voices rise louder than intuition, and expectations drown out the whisper of your inner knowing, the once clear thread of your path began to fade from view. Not because it vanished, and not because you strayed, but because the density of the world wrapped you in layers of forgetting. Many people call this feeling being lost, but the ancient ones called it the echo stage. For even when you feel farthest from yourself, the truth of your life does not abandon you. It simply echoes, calling you back, again and again, until you're quiet enough to hear. In a small coastal village, where cliffs kissed the restless waves, lived a young woman named Mara. For years, she wandered through life, feeling as though she walked through a fog no morning sun could burn away. Her days felt heavy, each choice uncertain, each step hollow. She tried endlessly to figure out her purpose, reading every book she could find, seeking signs in the purpose sky, and listening to the voices of others, hoping they held the answer she could not access within herself. One misty dawn, burdened by yet another sleepless night of searching, she sought refuge on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. The sea below thundered in chaotic rhythm, waves crashing wildly against the stone. It mirrored her inner world so perfectly that tears finally broke free, falling into the wind. As she cried, a wizened fisherman approached, his steps slow but steady. Without waiting for her explanation, he spoke gently. The sea is loudest when the tides are turning. Mara looked at him through watery eyes, confused. He continued, and when your life feels the most confusing, that's when an inner tide is shifting. She frowned. But I don't know where I'm going. The fisherman chuckled softly. Child, of course you don't. You're trying to hear your path while listening to everyone but yourself. He pointed to the horizon, where the first blush of dawn painted the sky. Your path hasn't disappeared, he said. It's speaking in echoes. You just haven't learned how to listen yet. And with that, he walked away, leaving Mara with a truth she couldn't quite articulate, but felt deeply. You see, the echo of your true path is not a loud call. It is the gentle tug in your chest when something feels off. It is the heaviness you feel in places you were never meant to remain. It is the quiet longing that emerges precisely when everything appears fine on the outside. This echo is the first sign that you are not lost at all. You are simply being summoned. The universe does not guide you through logic. It guides you through resonance. Your soul speaks through that subtle sense of misalignment, through the ache telling you, this is not where you stop, through the sudden attraction towards something you cannot explain, through the dreams that return, no matter how many times you push them aside. In the mountain, temples of the East, monks speak of the path beneath the path. It is the invisible road each person walks, one that cannot be seen with physical eyes, yet shapes every experience. When you drift from this inner path, the world feels heavy, unsteady, dissonant. But when you return, even if only for a breath, life clicks back into place with sacred precision. This is why your feelings matter. They are not chaotic storms to suppress. They are wayfinders, compasses that never malfunction, if only you dare to trust them. When something feels wrong, it is not your failure. It is your guidance system activating. When something feels right, even if it terrifies you, it is your alignment calling. The ancient practice of returning to the first frequency teaches that the first emotion you feel before the mind intervenes is always the truth. The mind calculates. The soul recognizes. Your life realigns the moment you stop listening outward and begin listening inward. Ancient practice. The echo ritual. Tonight, before sleep softens your edges, sit in stillness. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper gently, "Where are you calling me?" Do not seek an answer. Do not force a vision. Simply listen. You may feel a flutter, a warmth, a subtle pull. That is the echo of your true path, alive within you. You have never truly been lost. You have only been preparing to hear the call that was always meant to guide you home. Chapter 2. The Inner Compass. You forgot you had. Long before the world taught you to chase answers outside yourself, you were guided by an inner compass, an ancient instrument woven from intuition, truth, and the quiet certainty that hums beneath your thoughts. This compass once guided you with effortless precision, not through logic, not through reasoning, but through resonance, through the subtle pull toward what matched your soul's frequency. You felt it as a child, when you moved instinctively toward what lit you up and drifted away from what felt heavy or false. You felt it before the noise of the world convinced you to ignore your own knowing. You felt it before doubt became a habit and rationalization became a shield. But somewhere along the way, you began to distrust this sacred instrument, not because it failed you, but because you were taught to trust everything else instead. The expectations of others, the opinions of strangers, the logic of fear, the narratives of society, the belief that the mind knows better than the soul. And so the inner compass, the quiet, unwavering guide within, grew faint beneath layers of noise. In the center of an old forest lived a young traveler named Rowan. He carried with him a mechanical compass, a gift from his father, and relied on it for every step of his journey. But one winter morning, as frost blanketed the earth, he awoke to find the compass spinning wildly, refusing to settle on any direction. Panicked, Rowan wandered aimlessly until he stumbled upon a cabin nestled between ancient pines. Smoke curled from the chimney like a ribbon of warmth against the cold. An elderly woman, cloaked in emerald robes, stood at the doorway as though she had been expecting him. "You've lost your way," she said. "My compass is broken," Rowan replied, breath trembling in the icy air. The woman smiled softly, motioning him inside. "My child, the compass is not broken. It is simply confused, because you have forgotten the one inside you." She placed her hand gently over his heart. "This," she whispered, "was your first compass. And it has never failed, Rowan scoffed. But how can I trust something I cannot see? She lit a candle, its flame trembling gently. Can you see the wind? She asked. No. Yet you trust it to carry the scent of spring, to bend the trees, to whisper through the leaves. She handed him the candle. This flame is your heart's knowing. When the winds of fear blow, the flame flickers. But it does not extinguish. Your job is not to control the wind. Your job is to protect the flame. In that quiet cabin, Rowan began to understand what he had forgotten. And perhaps, somewhere inside, so do you. Your inner compass doesn't speak in words or directions. It speaks through sensation, through expansion and contraction, through the way something feels in your being. When you are aligned, you feel it, a gentle warmth, a feeling of yes, a subtle opening in the chest, a quiet excitement, a calm certainty. When you are not aligned, the compass warns you, a deep heaviness, a sense of shrinking, a tightening in the stomach, a quiet no, a feeling that something is off, even if you can't explain why. Your compass has never been wrong. You have simply overridden it with thoughts that were never yours. The world teaches you to question your intuition, but the soul teaches you to trust its first whisper. In the monasteries of the Plai, high mountains, sages teach a principle known as the body's truth. They believe the heart, not the mind, is the original navigator. The heart responds to truth instantly. The mind responds eventually, and often incorrectly. This is why your body tightens in places where your soul is not meant to stay. This is why you feel uneasy around certain people. This is why your dreams persist despite your attempts to silence them. This is why something inside you pushes you toward more, even when your life appears full. Your inner compass is coded for your unique path. It cannot be programmed by others. It cannot be explained logically, and it cannot be silenced permanently. Even when you ignore it, it remains faithful, recalibrating, whispering, nudging, waiting. The truth is simple. You are not lost. You are misdirected by voices that were never meant to guide you. To realign, you must return to the original navigator, the compass that existed before fear, before doubt, before the world convinced you not to trust yourself. Ancient practice, the heart compass activation. Sit comfortably and place your hands over your heart. Take 3 slow breaths. Feel the subtle rhythm beneath your palms. Now whisper softly, "Show me what feels true." Notice what happens. A sensation may arise. Warmth, openness, clarity. This is the compass awakening. Ask again. Show me what is not meant for me. You may feel tightness, heaviness, or subtle discomfort. This is your guidance, clear as day. Your inner compass is not broken. It is waiting to lead you not to a destination, but back to yourself. The moment you begin listening is the moment your life begins realigning. Chapter 3. The exact moment your life drifted off path. There comes a moment in every human journey when the world grows louder than the soul. It does not happen with thunder or spectacle. It does not arrive with warning. Instead, it slips into your life quietly, like a soft fog, rolling across familiar fields. One day, you awaken, and something feels different. Not wrong, not broken, just subtly misplaced, as though an inner star has shifted by a single degree. This is the moment when life drifts off path. Not through failure, not through weakness, not through mistake, but through forgetting. In a small town surrounded by rolling meadows lived a young man named Elias. Like many, he began life with effortless clarity. As a child, he moved with instinctive certainty, chasing what felt alive and avoiding what did not. But as he grew older, the world full of opinions and expectations began to press upon him. At first, the influence was gentle. Be practical. Choose stability over passion. Don't risk too much. Don't stand out. Don't dream so loudly. Elias obeyed, believing the voices around him must know better than the voice within. Each small compromise seemed harmless on its own. A dream set aside here. A preference ignored there. A truth swallowed for the comfort of others. A passion dismissed as childish. 1 degree off, then another, and another. Until one morning, as he prepared for yet another day in a life that felt increasingly foreign, he noticed the hollow echo inside him. A quiet emptiness he could not name. A heaviness in his chest that no accomplishment could soothe. This is how misalignment appears. Not as catastrophe, not as chaos, but as a dull ache, a quiet sense of wrongness, disguised as normal life. For many, this moment feels like the beginning of being lost. But it is not the beginning. It is the awakening. The soul will allow you to drift, but it will never allow you to forget for long. In the monasteries of the northern cliffs, monks teach that the soul has a failsafe. The moment your life moves too far from your truth, something inside you begins to protest. Not loudly, not angrily, but persistently, like a single drumbeat, sounding deep beneath the surface. That drumbeat is the ache you feel when you wake up in a life that doesn't match the one you once desired. It is the exhaustion that comes, not from effort, but from misalignment. It is the confusion that arises when everything looks fine on the outside, yet something feels fundamentally off within. You may think this is failure, but this is guidance. Your soul does not punish, it redirects. The moment you drift off course is the moment your soul begins calling you back. Sometimes the call comes as dissatisfaction, sometimes as frustration, sometimes as longing, restlessness, or even unexpected grief. But always the call arrives, because your soul knows the path, even when you forget it entirely. Elias's turning point came on a chilly autumn afternoon, when he encountered an elderly man sitting alone on a bench near the river. The man watched the water flow with peaceful eyes, as though he and the river shared a secret. Elias sat beside him, unable to hide the turmoil swirling within. The man spoke first. "You're listening to too many voices." Elias blinked. What?" The man chuckled. "I can see it in your shoulders. They're carrying decisions that do not belong to you." Elias felt his throat tighten. The man continued, "Your life is not off path. You simply wandered into a chapter that was never meant to become your story." He pointed to the river. "See how the water bends around the rocks? How it changes course without losing its direction. It adapts, but it never forgets where it's meant to go." Elias stared at the river for a long moment, feeling the truth unravel inside him. The man's voice softened. "You haven't failed. You've been rerouted. You see, your life does not drift off path as punishment. It drifts so you can feel the contrast, so you can recognize the difference between alignment and misalignment, so you can remember what truth feels like. For the soul, even detours are sacred. There is no wasted year, no wrong choice, no misstep that cannot be reclaimed. Every moment of drifting eventually becomes the compass that returns you to your center. In ancient writings, this moment is called the soft collapse, the quiet breaking that happens before realignment. It is a sacred dismantling, allowing you to shed what was never yours. If you feel lost right now, understand, you are not failing, you are recalibrating. Misalignment is not the end of the path. It is the invitation to return to it. Ancient practice, the moment of drift. Sit in stillness. Close your eyes. Ask softly, when did I first abandon myself? Notice what memory rises first. This is the moment your soul wants to show you. Do not judge it. Do not resist it. Simply witness it. Now whisper, "I return to the moment before I drifted." Feel the quiet shift within. A click, a soft release. Your path remembers you, even when you forget it. Chapter 4. The Call of the Soul. There is a moment in every human life when the soul grows too loud to ignore. A moment when the inner whisper becomes a steady drumbeat, calling you back to yourself with a power that transcends logic. This call does not arrive through reason. It does not speak in words. It moves through feeling ancient, familiar, undeniable. This is the call of the soul. It begins subtly, like the first tremor of wind before a storm, brushing against the edges of your awareness. You feel it in the hollowness of choices that once felt satisfying, in the discomfort that arises in places where you once felt at home, in the quiet longing that surfaces in the brief stillness between one obligation and the next. This call does not criticize. It does not condemn. It does not demand. It simply beckons. There is more. There has always been more. In a hidden village, nestled among emerald hills, lived a healer named Leora. She was known for her wisdom, her gentle touch, and the way flowers bloomed in her garden even in the dead of winter. Yet despite her gifts, she felt a persistent ache, an inner tug telling her she was meant for something beyond her current life. For years, she ignored it. Her life was comfortable. Her days were predictable. Her role in the village was secure. But the call of the soul does not fade with neglect. It grows stronger. One evening, as she lit a candle in her small cottage, she noticed the flame flickering, oddly, leaning toward the window, though no breeze entered. She approached, intrigued. Outside, beneath the vast blanket of stars, she saw a single white deer standing at the edge of the forest. Its eyes glowed with otherworldly knowing. The deer turned and stepped deeper into the woods, then paused, then looked back at her. In that simple gesture, Leora felt something ancient awaken inside her. A memory not of this life, but of her essence. She knew instantly. The deer was not a sign. It was a summons. The soul's call often arrives through symbols, not because the universe is mysterious, but because symbols speak the language of the soul. Every nudge you feel, every moment of déjà vu, every tightening in your chest when you stay where you're not meant to be, every burst of longing for the life you haven't yet lived, is part of this call. Your soul is not trying to change your life. It is trying to remind you of the life that belongs to you. You see, the soul remembers your original path, even when the mind forgets. It remembers the agreements you made before birth, the purpose you chose, the gifts you promised to express, the lessons you intended to embody. Whenever you stray too far from these truths, the soul calls you back, not with fear, not with force, but with resonance. The call of the soul has 3 stages. Stage 1, the whisper. A quiet sense that something feels off, a longing for more, a feeling that life's current rhythm doesn't match your inner one. Stage 2, the stirring. Synchronicities increase, old desires resurface. New visions flicker through your mind like fragments of a forgotten dream. You feel restless. You feel called. Stage 3, the summoning life begins to rearrange itself. Jobs end. Relationships shift. Opportunities appear. Dreams intensify. Your inner world becomes too uncomfortable to stay unchanged. This is not chaos. This is alignment in motion. Your soul will disrupt anything that does not honor your truth. In the ancient texts kept within the desert temples, there is a phrase that translates to, "Your destiny shakes you before it greets you." The shaking is not punishment. It is preparation. Leora, following the white deer into the forest, felt fear rise in her throat. But beneath that fear was certainty, an inner knowing that she could no longer stay where her soul had outgrown. The path was unclear, but the call was unmistakable. The deeper she walked into the forest, the brighter the stars seemed to burn. The air shimmered with a presence she could not name. She felt guided, held, remembered. This is what happens when you answer your soul's call. Life begins to support you in ways that defy logic. The right people appear. The right moments unfold. The right doors open. Sometimes ones you were never meant to know existed until now. Because when you follow the call, you return to alignment. And alignment activates assistance. Ancient sages say, when you walk your soul's path, the universe walks with you. You may feel fear, you may feel uncertain, but beneath all of it, you will feel a quiet, steady truth. I am finally going where I was always meant to go. The call of the soul is not a voice you hear, it is a destiny you feel. Ancient practice, the calling ritual. Sit in silence. Close your eyes. Place your hand over your solar plexus. Whisper softly, show me what is calling me. Do not analyze the images that arise. Do not judge the feelings that surface. Simply witness what your soul reveals. The first image, sensation, or inspiration that appears is your summons. Honor it. Follow it. It will not lead you astray. Your soul has never been silent. You have simply finally become quiet enough to hear it. Chapter 5. The Still Point. Before realignment. Before every great shift in your life, there comes a moment of profound stillness. It is not the stillness of peace, nor the stillness of certainty, but a deep, suspended quiet. A pause in the inner tides, where everything that once felt familiar suddenly loosens its grip. This stillness doesn't arrive with clarity. It arrives with confusion. It doesn't feel like alignment. It feels like the absence of direction altogether. This is the still point before realignment. In this moment, you may feel as though your life has stopped moving, as though doors that once opened easily now remain shut, as though the universe has gone silent, withholding the next step. It is a strange sensation, like the breath before the exhale, the dawn before the sun crests the horizon, the seed beneath the soil moments before it breaks open to grow. The still point is not stagnation, it is gestation. In a quiet valley of the east, where mists embraced the mountains like lingering dreams, lived a potter named Elara. Her creations were sought by royalty and wanderers alike, for there was something ethereal in her work, an essence that seemed to echo with the memory of other worlds. She often said she did not make pottery. She listened to it, forming itself. But one winter, Elara awoke to find her inspiration gone. Every vessel she shaped cracked, every glaze dulled. Her hands, once guided by intuition, felt empty of their ancient knowing. Frustrated and ashamed, she withdrew from her workshop, unable to create. She wandered the valley in silence, searching for a sign, a spark, anything to return her art to life. Yet day after day, the stillness persisted, silent, blank, heavy. One evening, while sitting beside the river, she watched the current slow until it nearly stopped altogether, held by the forming ice. She felt something in that moment, a recognition she could not yet name. As she stared at the near motionless river, an elderly monk approached, lowering himself beside her with a groan softened by humor. "You're angry at the silence," he said without introduction. Elara sighed. "I feel as though everything I once knew has abandoned me." The monk dipped his hand into the icy water, watching ripples form only to quickly disappear. "Do you know what happens just before a river changes its course?" he asked. Elara shook her head. "It stops. Just for a moment. The water gathers itself before choosing a new direction." He looked at her with eyes that held centuries. "You think your life has halted, but it is only gathering itself." This truth sank into Elara like a stone sinking into deep water. The stillness was not an ending. It was a prelude. You see, the soul cannot realign while you are in constant motion. Clarity cannot reach you while you're drowning in momentum. The universe cannot whisper its next instruction until you finally become quiet enough to hear it. The still point is the sacred pause designed to break your momentum not as punishment, but as precision. The old path must slow before the new one can appear. In the great teachings of the ancient temples, this moment is known as the zero field, the place between what was and what will be. A space of neutrality where the old energy dissolves, but the new energy has not yet taken form. You may feel lost here. You may feel empty. You may feel suspended in nothingness. But the truth is, this is where realignment begins. In the zero field, nothing is wrong. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are being recalibrated. The still point is where the old frequency dies, so the new one can be born. Elara, guided by the Stide monk's words, surrendered her frustration. She stopped forcing herself to create. Instead, she allowed herself to rest within the silence. Days passed. Then, weeks. She let the stillness wash through her like a cleansing tide. One morning, she awoke with a sudden vision, not of a pot, but of a deep indigo bowl, glowing like midnight sky touched by stars. Her heart stirred. Her hands tingled. It was the first spark she'd felt in months. She rushed to her workshop, gathered her clay, and let her hands move not out of skill, but out of surrender. What emerged was unlike anything she had ever crafted. The bowl shimmered with celestial depth, reflecting both her struggle and her rebirth. When villagers saw it, they whispered that it was not just pottery, it was prophecy. Elara understood then. The stillness had not been the absence of creation. It had been its preparation. Your still point is the same. The moment when your life quiets is not a void. It is alignment in incubation. When nothing moves, everything is rearranging itself beneath the surface. When you feel stuck, your soul is preparing to shift you. When you feel empty, space is opening for what is meant to fill you next. Do not curse the stillness. Honor it. For in the sacred pause lies the promise of redirection. Ancient practice. Entering the zero field. Sit in complete silence for 3 minutes. Do not seek answers. Do not try to meditate. Do not resist the discomfort. Simply place your hand over your heart and whisper, "I allow the stillness to realign me." Feel the tension soften. Feel the mind loosen its grip. Feel the inner world begin to open. The still point is not the end of your path. It is the place where your next step is born. Chapter 6. Energy before action. The world teaches you to act first, think later, and feel last. But the universe operates in the opposite direction. Energy before action. Vibration before movement. Alignment before effort. Nothing in existence manifests through force. Everything begins as frequency. In the unseen architecture of creation, thought is the blueprint, emotion is the painter, and action is merely the final brushstroke. Yet many try to build their lives using only the last step, wondering why their efforts fall flat, why their plans crumble, why their desires seem to resist them. Action without alignment is like rowing upstream, exhausting, aimless, and unsustainable. To act from misalignment is to fight your own current. In a bustling marketplace lived a woman named Celeste. Known for her relentless work ethic, she chased success with the ferocity of someone afraid of losing time. She believed movement equaled progress, that busyness equaled purpose. Her days were filled with lists, tasks, and perpetual motion. Yet no matter how tirelessly she labored, her life remained stagnant, opportunities slipping through her fingers like sand. One afternoon, exhausted and defeated, she found herself wandering beyond the edge of the marketplace into a quiet grove she had never noticed before. There, beneath the shade of ancient trees, sat an elderly man, painting with serene intention. His brush moved slowly, gracefully, as though guided by a rhythm invisible to anyone but him. Celeste watched with restless curiosity. "How do you paint with such ease?" she blurted. The man looked up, amusement dancing in his eyes. "I do not paint with my hands," he replied. "I paint with my energy. My hands simply follow." Seeing her confusion, he motioned for her to sit beside him. "You move too fast," he said gently. "So fast you outrun your own alignment." Celeste bristled. "But if I stop moving, nothing will happen." He dipped his brush into blue pigment, swirling it slowly. That is where you are mistaken. Nothing happens until you stop. The world fell quiet around them. A distant bird cried. Leaves rustled softly. And something inside Celeste began to crack open. The old man continued. Action is not what creates the future. Energy is. Your actions are only effective when they match your frequency. Misaligned action is wasted effort. He placed her hand over her chest. Feel first. Act second. That is the way of the universe. In the temples of the Western Desert, there is a sacred teaching known as the primacy of vibration. It states, nothing is allowed to materialize until the vibration is ready. You cannot force a seed to bloom. You cannot rush a sunrise. You cannot bend winter into summer through effort. Action birthed from misalignment leads only to burnout, confusion, and cycles of stagnation. But action birthed from aligned energy, that is momentum. That is grace. That is destiny moving through you. True action is not force, it is flow. When your energy matches your desire, life rearranges itself to support your steps. Doors open, people appear, opportunities blossom, synchronicities multiply, and suddenly your path becomes effortless. Because aligned action is not you doing the work, it is the universe doing the work through you. Celeste returned to the grove each day. Sitting beside the old man, she learned to quiet her thoughts, to feel her own vibration, to wait for the subtle inner click that signaled alignment. At first, sitting in stillness felt unbearable. Her mind screamed for movement, for productivity, for control. But as the days passed, she began to feel something she had forgotten, an inner steadiness, a soft rising of certainty, a spark of clarity beneath her ribs. And one morning, without thinking, she stood up with a direction in her heart, so strong it felt like a magnetic pull. She followed that pull, and everything changed. The opportunity she had been chasing for years appeared effortlessly. The connections she needed gathered around her without force. Her goals manifested not through strain, but through synchronized ease, because she had finally learned the truth. It is alignment that moves mountains, not effort. The universe responds not to what you do, but to the energy you hold while doing it. When your actions arise from fear, the results are fragile. When your actions arise from desperation, the results are unstable. When your actions arise from doubt, the results are inconsistent. But when your actions arise from resonance, they become unstoppable. Energy is the cause, action is the echo. First the alignment, then the movement, then the miracle. Ancient practice, the alignment breath. Before taking any action, big or small, pause. Place one hand on your heart, the other on your abdomen. Breathe deeply 3 times. Ask inwardly, does my energy match the outcome I desire? If the answer is no, wait. Realign. Center. Shift your vibration. When the energy clicks into place, you will feel it, a sudden lightness, a quiet certainty, an effortless readiness. That is your cue. That is aligned. Action. That is the universe saying, now. Chapter 7. The frequency of clarity. Clarity does not arrive as a thunderbolt. It does not erupt through your mind like a sudden revelation or announce itself with grand ceremony. Clarity is a frequency, a subtle vibration that emerges when the noise within you finally softens enough for truth to be heard. It is the still, unwavering hum beneath confusion, the quiet resonance beneath doubt, the soft illumination beneath the shadows of uncertainty. Most people search for clarity with their minds, believing it to be an idea, an answer, a conclusion. But clarity does not come from thought. It arises from alignment, an energetic shift that tunes your entire being to the truth you were too overwhelmed to recognize. In a desert village, carved from sun-warmed stone, lived a young mapmaker named Jorah. Travelers from distant lands sought his maps, praising their accuracy and elegance. Yet Jorah himself often felt lost, burdened by a fog of indecision that clouded his every choice. He believed clarity would come from analyzing every option, weighing every detail, consulting every possible source of knowledge. His home was littered with scrolls, diagrams, and sketches of potential futures he desperately tried to navigate. Still, the fog remained. One blistering afternoon, after days of relentless frustration, Jorah journeyed into the desert, hoping the solitude would soothe his mind. But as he wandered farther from the village, a sudden sandstorm swept across the dunes, blotting out the sun and obscuring every landmark. Panic surged through him. He could not see the horizon. He could not find his footprints. He could not think clearly enough to choose a direction. Terrified, he collapsed to his knees as the wind roared around him. That's when he heard it, faint at first, then undeniable. A bell. Its sound drifted through the storm like a thread of silver. Jorah stumbled toward it, shielding his face, until he saw a small stone monastery rising faintly through the swirling sand. He was welcomed inside by a silent monk, who guided him to a dim chamber lit by a single lantern. When Jorah attempted to explain his crisis, his confusion, his lack of direction, his constant battle for clarity, the monk simply smiled and placed a clay bowl in front of him. The bowl was filled with water, but the surface was turbulent from the vibrations of the storm outside. "What do you see?" the monk asked. "Nothing," Jorah said. "The water is too disturbed." The monk nodded. "Clarity cannot be seen when the water is agitated." He motioned for Jorah to wait. Slowly, as the storm began to calm outside, the vibrations softened. The surface of the water began to settle, and eventually, the stillness returned. "What do you see now?" the monk asked. Jorah leaned over the bowl. "I see my reflection. And this," the monk said softly, "is clarity. Not the arrival of new information, but the settling of what is already within you." Those words sank deeper than any wisdom Jorah had ever encountered. You see, clarity is not something you seek. It is something that reveals itself when you stop stirring the water. Your mind becomes cloudy when you overthink, when you push for answers, when you force solutions. The more desperately you grasp for direction, the more distorted your inner landscape becomes. Clarity comes from surrender, not struggle, stillness, not analysis, listening, not forcing alignment, not effort. Confusion is not a sign that you lack answers. It is a sign that your energy is in dissonance. When your vibration is scattered by fear, urgency, or self-doubt, the signal of your true path becomes faint. But when you breathe, when you soften, when you release the need to know, immediately, the signal strengthens. Clarity is the natural result of alignment. When your mind, heart, and energy synchronize, truth rises effortlessly from within, just as Jorah's reflection appeared once the water grew still. In the ancient texts of the desert monks, clarity is described as the echo of stillness, not the achievement of knowing, but the remembering of what your soul already understands. Confusion, then, is not a curse. It is an invitation, a cue to pause, a gentle reminder to return to center. Jorah remained in the monastery for many days, learning the art of allowing clarity rather than chasing it. When he finally returned to his village, he brought back not only a new map, but a new way of listening. He understood that clarity did not come from the world outside him. It came from the quiet alignment within. And so, it will be for you. Ancient practice, the waters of knowing. Sit in stillness. Close your eyes. Imagine a bowl of water resting in your chest. Feel the surface. Notice if it's agitated, cloudy, or turbulent. Now, take 3 gentle breaths. With each exhale, imagine the surface smoothing, settling, becoming still. When calmness arrives, whisper, Show me what is already true. Do not think, do not seek, simply allow. Clarity emerges not through force, but through resonance. Chapter 8. The Lost Art of Self-Listening. Long before the world taught you to follow rules, logic, and the noise of external expectation, you possessed a natural ability that guided every step you took. The art of self-listening. This art was instinctive once. A birthright, a compass, a language older than words. You listened to your body's whispers. You listened to your heart's pull. You listened to your soul's quiet knowing. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, you learned to ignore yourself. You learned to replace intuition with advice, desire with approval, inner truth with outer noise. The world convinces you that listening to yourself is selfish, naive, irresponsible, unrealistic, and so you silence your inner voice, believing the world must know better. But no one else carries your blueprint. No one else carries your destiny. No one else holds your soul's map. To lose self-listening is to wander blind in a life meant to be guided from within. In the high forests of the north lived a young herbalist named Arya. She was known for her uncanny ability to find rare plants, healing herbs, and hidden springs with unerring accuracy. When asked how she knew where to search, she would simply smile and tap her chest. "I listen," she'd say. But as her reputation grew, more and more villagers demanded remedies, cures, and tasks. She began to ignore her own rhythms to meet their needs. She stopped walking in the forest at dawn, her favorite hour. She stopped sitting by the river where insights arose. She forced herself to work even when she felt drained. Months passed, and her inner world began to dim. Her remedies lost their potency. Her intuition grew faint. Her sense of direction vanished. One morning, overwhelmed by exhaustion, Arya wandered into the forest not to gather herbs, but simply to breathe. She walked without purpose, feeling more lost than she ever had. After hours of wandering, she came upon an elderly woman sitting beside a fallen tree, weaving strands of moss between her fingers, as though creating something sacred. Arya collapsed beside her, tears spilling over. "I can't hear myself anymore," she whispered. The woman smiled gently, her eyes shimmering with ancient wisdom. "You abandoned the one voice that has never lied to you," she said. "You listened to the world and forgot the world within." Arya shook her head. "I don't know how to find it again." The elder plucked a leaf from a nearby branch and held it up. "This leaf knows when to grow, when to fall, when to rest. It listens to the tree listens to the earth listens to the seasons. All of creation listens inward before moving outward." She pressed the leaf into Arya's palm. "Your soul is more ancient than this forest. Listening is not something you learn, it is something you remember." Those words were like an incantation. You see, self-listening is not a technique. It is a homecoming. The inner voice never disappears. It simply grows quiet beneath layers of noise, obligation, fear, and habit. But with presence, with breath, with intention, it rises again. Self-listening is the art of hearing the quiet yes beneath your chest, noticing the subtle no that tightens, your stomach feeling when your energy expands or contracts, trusting the first whisper before the mind interferes. Most people do not lack intuition. They lack permission to trust it. When you begin listening to yourself again, life changes. Your body speaks to you. Your emotions become guides. Your desires become instructions. Your intuition becomes a navigational system. Your path becomes unmistakably clear. Arya spent many days with the elder woman, learning to restore her inner hearing. She learned that self-listening requires three things: receptivity, a willingness to hear what arises even if it contradicts your plans; honesty, a willingness to admit what you want even if it scares you; courage, a willingness to act upon your inner knowing even if no one else understands. Slowly, Arya returned to her origins. She woke before dawn again. She sat beside the river. She walked through the forest without purpose, allowing her intuition to pull her. And with each day, her inner voice grew stronger, clearer, louder. Soon her remedies regained their power. Her confidence returned. Her path opened again. Not because she found new skills, but because she returned to the oldest one she possessed, the art of listening to herself. And so must you. Ancient practice, the inner ear, ritual. Sit in a quiet space. Place both hands over your heart. Ask softly, what truth have I been avoiding? Do not think. Do not analyze. Simply wait. Your body will respond before your mind does. You may feel a flutter, a heaviness, a longing, a sensation rising in your chest or throat. That is your truth speaking. Then whisper, I am willing to hear myself again. A shift will occur, subtle but unmistakable, because once you give yourself permission to listen inward, your soul does not whisper, it sings. Chapter 9. The Fog of Fear. Fear arrives not as an enemy, but as a fog, soft, shapeless, and insistent. It does not shatter your path, it obscures it. It blurs the horizon, hides your next step, and fills the air with the illusion that danger lurks where only transition exists. Fear's power has never been in its force, but in its distortion. It bends reality until you mistake uncertainty for threat, change for danger, and possibility for risk. Fear is not the absence of courage. It is the echo of misalignment. There is a village nestled at the edge of an ancient forest, known as the Vale of Mists. For generations, travelers avoided its wooded paths, because a thick fog clung to the trees, swallowing sound and sight alike. Many believed the fog to be enchanted, a curse from forgotten times. In this village lived a young courier named Dax. His job was to deliver messages to nearby settlements, and the forest path was the quickest route. Still, he avoided it, choosing instead to travel days around the valley, exhausting himself to avoid the fog's uncertainty. One morning, an urgent message awaited him, one that could not afford delay. Torn between responsibility and fear, he hesitated at the edge of the forest. The fog seemed alive, swirling in silent invitation and silent warning. As he stood there trembling, an old woman approached a stranger cloaked in violet robes, her eyes glimmering like moonlit water. "You fear what lies within," she said gently. "It's dangerous," Dax replied. "No one can see more than a few steps ahead in there." She smiled knowingly. "The fog is not dangerous. Only your thoughts within it are." Before he could protest, she stepped into the mist and vanished from view. A moment later, her voice drifted back. "The fog cannot hurt you. It only humbles your sight, so you must learn to trust your step." Her words pierced Dax like a quiet revelation. Fear, then, is the same. It limits your sight, so you must learn to listen deeper, trust deeper, feel deeper. Fear is not the blockade. It is the invitation. It asks you to notice what you're clinging to. It asks you to examine where doubt has grown louder than truth. It asks you to stop relying solely on sight and begin navigating by resonance. In the teachings of ancient mystics, fear is described not as darkness but as dissonance, a frequency that clashes with your soul's natural harmony. When you move in the wrong direction, your energy tightens. When you suppress your desires, your heart contracts. When you betray your truth, fear fills the gap between who you are and who you are pretending to be. Fear is not the truth. It is the alarm that goes off when you stray from it. Dax finally stepped into the fog. His breath quickened as the mist engulfed him. Each step was cautious, hesitant, uncertain. But as he walked, he realized something unexpected. Though he couldn't see far, he could always see just enough for his next step. And that, he understood, was all he'd ever needed. He learned to feel the path beneath his feet, to let intuition guide his direction, to trust the quiet, knowing that rose when sight was unavailable. Halfway through his journey, he saw the outline of the old woman waiting for him. When he reached her, she placed a hand on his chest. "This," she said, tapping lightly, "is what sees when your eyes cannot. Fear only wins when you forget to use your inner vision. Fear clouds the mind, but sharpens the soul. When you step toward what scares you not recklessly, but authentically, you activate parts of yourself that have long been dormant. You awaken intuition, courage, awareness, resilience, clarity. Fear is the fog that teaches you to feel your way forward. If you avoid the fog, you avoid your becoming. Fear asks you one simple question: will you walk even when you cannot see the whole path? Because life never reveals the entire path at once. It reveals it step by step, breath by breath, alignment by alignment. Dax emerged from the forest, not with the absence of fear, but with mastery over it. For he had learned the sacred truth: fear cannot stop you when you stop believing its story. Ancient practice. Walking through the fog. Close your eyes and inhale slowly. Ask yourself gently, what fear have I mistaken for truth? A memory, sensation, or image will rise. Do not resist it. Now place your hand on your heart and whisper, show me the step, not the whole path. Feel the weight in your chest lighten. Feel your breath deepen. This is the fog parting. Fear is not the end of clarity, it is the beginning of trust. Chapter 10. The weight of other people's expectations. There is a weight you carry that does not belong to you. A weight that is invisible, yet heavy enough to bend the spine of your spirit. It is the weight of other people's expectations, the silent agreements, the inherited beliefs, the roles you never chose, yet somehow stepped into. This weight does not arrive all at once. It accumulates. A suggestion here, a criticism there, a "you should" whispered when you were young, a "don't disappoint us" echoed through the halls of your becoming. You carry these expectations like a cloak woven from threads of obligation, approval, and fear of rejection. And with each passing year, the cloak grows heavier, until one day you wake and realize you can no longer feel your own shape beneath it. In the mountains of the West lived a sculptor named Thalen. His art was known throughout the kingdom, not for its perfection, but for its soul. His sculptures seemed alive, as though something divine breathed through their marble forms. But Thalen lived beneath the shadow of his father, a stern craftsman who believed art should be flawless, structured, controlled. "You must sculpt as I did," the father would say. Precision above passion, technique above expression. Thalen tried. For years, he carved according to his father's rules, chiseling his wildness into silence. But his heart grew dim. His inspiration evaporated. His sculptures became technically flawless, but spiritually hollow. The weight of expectation had smothered the flame within him. One evening, overwhelmed by frustration, Thalen hiked deep into the mountain range to escape the noise inside his mind. Lost within the labyrinth of peaks, he stumbled into a hidden cavern. The walls glittered with crystals that glowed like starlight trapped in stone. At the center of the cavern stood an unfinished statue, ancient, weathered, incomplete. Dust coated its surface. Yet despite its age, it radiated a strange power. An elderly woman stepped from the shadows, her presence calm and rooted like the mountain itself. "Why do you look burdened?" she asked. Thalen confessed everything: the weight of his father's expectations, the pressure to conform, the fear of disappointing those who loved him. The woman touched the incomplete statue. "Do you know why this sculpture has never been finished?" Thalen shook his head. "Because every sculptor who discovered it tried to complete it according to someone else's vision. They tried to guess the intention of the original artist. They tried to please the history carved into the stone." She cleared dust from the statue's chest. The stone rejected them, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked authenticity. Thalen felt something twist inside him. recognition, grief, truth. You too have been carving someone else's statue, she said softly. You have shaped your life, not from your soul, but from the weight placed upon it. He closed his eyes as tears slipped silently down his cheeks. You see, the expectations of others are like sculpting tools pressed into your hands before you are ready. They shape your choices, your identity, your path. But they do so without listening to the marble of your spirit. You were never meant to live a life designed by another's fear or desire. The woman handed Thalen a small chisel. Strike the stone, she instructed. What if I break it? Thalen asked, trembling. Then it was never meant to be whole under someone else's design. With a trembling breath, Thalen raised the chisel and struck not with precision, but with truth. The cavern vibrated. The statue cracked not in destruction, but in liberation. As the fragments fell away, a radiant core was revealed beneath the surface, smooth, luminous, and untouched by time. This, the woman whispered, is the self beneath expectation. That moment changed Thalen forever. He returned to his village not as the sculptor his father wanted him to be, but as the sculptor his soul remembered. His new works were wild, emotional, alive. Some people criticized them, some adored them, but none of that mattered. He had dropped the cloak. The weight was gone. And though his father never fully understood, Thalen finally did. You do not owe your life to the expectations that others handed you. You owe your life to the truth that lives within you. The weight you carry is not yours. The path you fear, stepping onto is. And the freedom you crave begins the moment you dare to disappoint the wrong people, so you can finally honor the right version of yourself. Ancient practice. Releasing the cloak. Close your eyes. Visualize yourself wearing a long, heavy cloak, woven from the expectations of others. See the names or faces of those tied into the threads: family, society, teachers, partners, critics. Now gently unclasp the cloak at your collarbone. Let it fall. Feel the air touch the places that were once smothered. Then whisper, I return to the life that belongs to me. A lightness will rise within you, a warmth, a remembering. For beneath the weight of expectations lies the self you were always meant to become. Chapter 11. The noise that drowns your knowing. There is a noise in the modern world, unlike any thunderstorm, any tempest, any roar of nature. It is not loud in sound, but in effect. It infiltrates the edges of your awareness, saturates your inner world, and disconnects you from the one voice that has always been your true guide, your own. This noise doesn't shout. It hums. It flickers. It distracts. It fills your mind with 1,000 small voices that drown your knowing. It is the noise of comparison, the noise of expectation, the noise of information overload, the noise of constant distraction, the noise of living a life designed by everything except your soul. In the deep valley of Sereth lived a musician named Oren. His compositions once moved entire villages to tears, not because of technical brilliance, but because his music seemed to speak the language of the heart. People said that when he played, the world itself leaned in to listen. But over time, Oren began to hear the voices of critics. Your style is too unusual. Your melodies are too emotional. You must adapt to what the people want. At first, these were only faint suggestions, like errant breezes brushing his mind. But gradually, they became louder, more insistent. He began altering his music to meet expectations, adding flourishes he didn't feel, removing notes that once felt true to him, dressing his sound in garments that didn't fit. And as the noise grew, his knowing diminished. One evening, after another performance that left him strangely hollow, Oren wandered through the village streets until he reached the edge of the whispering woods. Their name came from the gentle rustle of leaves that sounded like thousands of soft voices murmuring secrets. Oren stepped inside, seeking the silence he had forgotten. But the woods were not silent. They whispered, they hummed, they breathed, they sang. Oren wandered deeper, following a faint, almost imperceptible melody threading through the air. Finally, he discovered a small clearing illuminated by moonlight. At its center sat an old woman, tuning a wooden stringed instrument, unlike any he had seen. Without looking up, she said, "You have stopped listening to your song." Oren froze. "How could you know that?" "Because the forest told me," she replied simply. "It hears every unplayed note, especially the ones trapped beneath the noise you carry." Oren kneeled, tears gathering in the corners of his eyes. "I can't hear my own music anymore," he confessed. "It's lost beneath the noise of everything else." The woman gently plucked a single string on her instrument. The note rang out pure, clear, unbroken. "This," she said, "is what your knowing sounds like." She then struck multiple strings in chaotic succession, discordant, overlapping, confused. "And this," she continued, "is what you've let the world become in your mind." Oren bowed his head. "How do I make it stop?" The woman smiled and pointed to his chest. "You don't silence the noise. You strengthen the signal. You see, clarity doesn't come from eliminating external sound. It comes from amplifying your inner voice. The mind becomes confused when it listens outward more than inward. It becomes overwhelmed when it tries to carry the weight of 1,000 opinions. It becomes disoriented when you place more value on others' voices than your own. The noise of the world is constant, but your knowing is eternal. And though it may be quiet, it is powerful enough to pierce any chaos when you return to it. The old woman led Oren to a nearby tree, whose trunk had been carved with ancient symbols. "This is the tree of resonance," she explained. "All who lean against it hear only what is true." Oren placed his palm upon the trunk. Instantly, the noise within him softened. The swirling thoughts, the doubts, the expectations, all dimmed like embers fading in the night. In their place rose a single tone, subtle, steady, familiar. It was his knowing. Not a word, not a thought, a feeling, a direction, a truth, a song. He collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by the recognition. The old woman nodded, knowingly. "Your knowing was never lost," she said. "It was simply drowned. In the monasteries of the desert, sages teach that the soul speaks in vibrations, not volume. The quieter you become, the more you hear. They say the universe does not hide your truth. It waits for you to become still enough to feel it. You do not regain your knowing by searching for new answers. You regain it by removing the noise that never belonged to you." After hours beneath the tree of resonance, Oren rose renewed. When he returned to the village, he did not play the way people expected. He played the way he once did from the center of his being. And when he did, something miraculous happened. The village fell silent. The wind stilled. Even the trees seemed to listen. For clarity, when embodied, becomes a frequency others cannot help but feel. Ancient practice, the signal ritual. Sit in stillness. Place your palms over your ears, blocking outer sound. Whisper. Quiet the noise. Strengthen the signal. Then place one hand on your chest. Listen. Not for words, for resonance. Your knowing lives beneath every layer of noise. And when you choose to hear it, it will guide you unfailingly. Chapter 12. The Myth of the Wrong Life. There is a belief many carry like a shadow behind them. The fear that they have chosen wrong, become wrong, lived wrong, or lost the life meant for them. This fear is ancient. It whispers through the mind in moments of doubt. It surfaces when dreams feel distant. It haunts the heart when life does not unfold as expected. But it is a myth, perhaps the greatest myth of all. There is no wrong life. Only wrong alignment. Only wrong frequency. Only wrong stories you tell yourself about who you should be. In the northern coastlands lived a sailor named Cale, who spent much of his youth believing he had made irrevocable mistakes. Once destined to become a scholar, he abandoned the path after a single failure. He believed he had disappointed his family, forfeited his purpose, and wandered too far from his original destiny. He convinced himself he was living the wrong life. But one stormy night, as lightning split the sky into jagged rivers of white, Cale's ship was wrecked upon a hidden reef. He managed to swim to a nearby island, a place untouched by civilization, lush with emerald forests and silver waterfalls. Exhausted, he collapsed on the sand. When he awoke, an elderly man was tending a fire nearby. "You survived," the man said, handing him a warm drink. "Why were you sailing in a storm?" Cale sighed. "I don't know. My life feels wrong. I don't know what I'm doing anymore." The man chuckled softly, like someone who had once believed the same. "Come," he said. "I want to show you something." He led Cale into the forest until they reached a massive tree so ancient it seemed older than time itself. Carved into its bark were hundreds of grooves that twisted and curved unpredictably. "What do you see?" the old man asked. Cale examined the lines. "They look random," he said. "Chaotic." The man smiled. "They are not random. They are the tree's story. The scars of storms, the shifts in seasons, the years of drought, the years of abundance. Each line marks a moment of change, and all together they formed this." He gestured to the towering giant. "This tree is not wrong. Its path is not wrong. Its scars were not mistakes." He placed a hand on the bark. "Nothing in nature walks a straight line, yet everything arrives exactly where it is meant to." Cale felt something crack open inside him. You see, life does not punish you for detours. Life shapes you through them. The myth of the wrong life is born from the illusion that destiny is a single, narrow road. But destiny is not a line, it is a field, a spectrum of possibilities that shift and rearrange themselves every time your alignment changes. You do not lose your path. Your path expands to meet wherever you stand. The universe does not operate through linear precision. It operates through vibrational correspondence, which means you cannot be living the wrong life. You can only be living at the wrong frequency, and your frequency can shift at any moment. Cale sat in silence, watching sunlight dance through the leaves. "But what about all my mistakes?" he finally asked. The old man laughed. "Mistakes? Those are the very things that guide you. The river does not curse the stone that makes it change direction. It uses it to create new paths." Cale felt tears forming as he whispered, "So, I haven't failed." "You couldn't fail if you tried," the man said. "The universe is not fragile. Neither is your path." Cale remained on the island for many days, helping the old man harvest fruit, fish in clear waters, and gather herbs. Each day, he felt the heaviness within him lighten. He had believed his life was wrong because it didn't match the picture he once carried. But now he understood. Your life is not meant to match an old picture. It is meant to match your current soul. The myth of the wrong life dissolves the moment you realize every path teaches you, every detour shapes you, every heartbreak opens you, every misstep redirects you, every moment brings you closer to authenticity. When Cale finally returned home, he didn't return as the man who had attempted to escape his life. He returned as someone who understood that life is not something you get right. Life is something you respond to. Life is something you grow through. Life is something that unfolds through alignment. Ancient practice. The tree of moments. Sit in silence. Place your hand over your heart. Imagine your life as the trunk of an ancient tree. See the lines, the scars, the twists, the detours. Now whisper, "Every moment has shaped me. None of them were wrong." Feel the relief spread through your body like warm sunlight. Because the truth is simple. You have never lived the wrong life. You have only forgotten the right perspective. Chapter 13. Synchronicities as signposts. Long before humans learned to navigate with maps or stars, they navigated with something far older, the subtle choreography of signs moving through their lives. The universe has always spoken, not in sentences, but in synchronicities, those moments when life aligns with uncanny precision, weaving meaning into the ordinary and whispering directions through coincidence. A synchronicity is not an accident. It is the universe making itself visible. It is the bridge between inner alignment and outer reality. It is life's way of saying, yes, right here, this way. In a quiet coastal city lived a librarian named Amaris. Her days were calm and predictable, filled with the scent of old books and the hum of turning pages. Yet beneath her steady exterior lived a restless longing, a sense that she was meant for something beyond the life she had built. She often asked the universe for guidance, whispering her questions into the early morning light. But the answers never came in words. They came as a strange series of coincidences she dismissed as random. A book falling open to a passage about new journeys, a stranger mentioning the very dream she had abandoned, a recurring number she kept noticing, 117, a song she hadn't heard in years, suddenly playing everywhere she went. At first, she smiled at these odd moments, but soon, she grew frustrated. "What am I supposed to do with this?" she whispered one evening. The universe, it seemed, was trying to speak, but she had not yet learned its language. One foggy morning, as she shelved books in the old marble library, she stumbled upon a man in the rarely visited mythology section. He looked ancient, not in a frail way, but in a timeless one. His eyes shimmered with the same quiet knowing found in deep forests and old mountains. He held a leather-bound book titled The Language of the Infinite. "Are you looking for something?" Amaris asked. He smiled gently. "No, I'm waiting for someone." She blinked, confused. "Who?" "You," he said simply. Amaris laughed. "You must be mistaken." The man closed the book with a soft thud. "Do you believe in signs?" he asked. She hesitated. "Sometimes." "Then tell me," he said, leaning on his cane. "Why do the same symbols keep crossing your path?" Amaris felt the air shift. Something within her stirred. "How could you know?" He raised a hand. "Synchronicities are not coincidences. They are signposts, like lanterns scattered along a path you cannot yet see." She stared at him, heart pounding. "You are trying to understand the destination before following the signs," he continued. "But signposts are not meant to explain. They are meant to guide." He placed the mythology book into her hands. "Synchronicities are the universe echoing your inner alignment. They arise when your soul and your path begin to converge." And with that, he turned and walked away, disappearing between the shelves as though swallowed by the stories themselves. That night, Amaris lay awake, replaying the man's words. Could synchronicities truly be messages? Could her life be speaking to her? The next morning, she walked into a cafe she rarely visited. As she stood in line, the barista called out, "Order 117. A familiar chill crept down her spine. Later that afternoon, while shelving returns, a book fell from her cart and landed open on the floor. The page read, "Leave before you're ready. The path reveals itself only after you start walking." Her breath caught. Each sign had been pointing to the same truth. Change was calling her. Synchronicities are not hints, they are confirmations. They form a pattern that only becomes visible when you step back from fear long enough to see the tapestry being woven around you. When something repeats in your life, a number, a name, a symbol, a message, it is the universe insisting gently. Pay attention. This is aligned. Follow this thread. Synchronicities appear more frequently when your vibration rises, because the higher the alignment, the thinner the veil between thought and reality. When you are off-path, signs are few. When you move toward your truth, signs accelerate. They show up as perfectly timed conversations, sudden opportunities, intuitive nudges, recurring symbols, déjà vu, dreams with clarity, moments where you feel guided, people who appear at exactly the right moment. In ancient traditions, Synchronicities are called bridges of light, temporary structures of energy connecting you from where you are to where you're meant to go. Amaris felt her resistance slowly softening. She knew she could no longer pretend the signs were random. She felt a pull towards something unknown, yet deeply familiar, as though her future self were calling her from beyond the horizon. One evening, as she closed the library, she whispered into the empty halls, "I'm listening." A breeze brushed through the room, though all windows were closed. The next morning, she found a job posting that matched a dream she had buried years ago. And right beneath the listing was a handwritten note stuck to the bulletin board. "Follow the signs. They're leading somewhere." Beautiful. It had no name, no explanation, just a message. The same message the universe had been whispering all along. Ancient practice, the signpost. Ritual tonight. Sit in silence. Ask aloud. Show me the signs meant for me. Within the next day or two, something will repeat. A number, a symbol, a phrase, a nudge. When it does, whisper, "I see it." Then follow it. Even if the next step is small. Synchronicities are not random magic. They are alignment made visible. Chapter 14. The Momentum of Rightness. There is a moment in every soul's journey when life stops feeling like an uphill battle and begins to move with a rhythm so effortless it feels like flying. A moment when events click into place with uncanny timing, when opportunities flow like water, when you find yourself being carried rather than pushing. This is the momentum of rightness. It is what happens when inner alignment meets outer action, when your energy matches your path so perfectly that the universe responds with acceleration. In a mountain monastery lived a novice monk named Solon. He was gentle, hard-working, and devoted. Yet he struggled with a deep fear that he was not progressing fast enough on his spiritual path. He meditated longer than others. He worked harder. He recited more prayers. He followed every instruction with precision. But no matter how hard he pushed himself, he felt stuck, as though pressing against an invisible wall. One evening, overwhelmed by self-doubt, he approached Elder Cairo, the monastery's wise and quiet leader. "I do everything I'm supposed to," Solon said, "yet I feel no progress. Why am I not moving forward?" Cairo smiled, with the gentleness of ancient rivers. "Because you are pushing the mountain," he said, "instead of letting the mountain carry you." Solon frowned, confused. The elder handed him a small wooden boat. "Tomorrow," he said, "meet me by the river." At dawn, Solon arrived to find Cairo sitting at the river's edge. The water flowed slowly, shimmering gold beneath the early sun. Cairo placed the little boat onto the river. "Push it," he instructed. Solon did. The boat lurched forward a few feet, then slowed, then stopped as the current resisted his force. "Now," Cairo said, "place the boat gently on the water and release it." Solon obeyed. The boat drifted effortlessly, carried by the current, moving, turning, gliding with no effort at all. "Which one reached farther?" Cairo asked. Solon bowed. "The one I let go." Cairo nodded. This is the momentum of rightness. When your actions align with your essence, the universe becomes the current. When you act from fear, force, or self-judgment, you become the current, and you exhaust yourself. Solon's breath trembled. He understood. Most people believe life moves through effort, but true momentum comes from resonance. When you step into the path meant for you, the universe rearranges itself in your favor. The right people appear. The right opportunities converge. Doors open without knocking. Pathways emerge without planning. Connections crystallize with impossible precision. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. Rightness creates momentum the way gravity pulls a stone downhill, naturally, inevitably, powerfully. Solon began applying this wisdom in his daily life. Instead of forcing spiritual practices, he followed what felt alive. Instead of trying to impress his teachers, he honored what resonated. Instead of rushing, he aligned. And something extraordinary happened. His meditation deepened, his intuition sharpened, his presence expanded. He was no longer trying to be spiritual, he was becoming himself. One afternoon, while sweeping the temple courtyard, he entered such a state of flow that he didn't notice Elder Cairo watching him. "You feel it now," the elder said. Solon nodded, breathless. "The current," Cairo smiled. "Yes, and it will carry you far if you continue letting rightness lead. The momentum of rightness is not speed. It is synchronicity. It is fluidity. It is the absence of resistance. It is the texture of life, rearranging itself around your alignment. You cannot create momentum. You can only allow it. You allow it by choosing what expands, you releasing what contracts you, honoring what resonates, stepping where your intuition pulls, trusting your timing, listening to your inner yes. Momentum is not a reward, it is a reflection. When your inner world shifts, your outer world accelerates. Think of birds during migration. They do not force their wings against the wind. They rise into currents that carry them thousands of miles with minimal effort. Their power does not come from muscle alone, but from finding the wind that matches their direction. So, it is with you. Your wind is alignment. Your wings are your truth. Your destination is already tethered to your soul. All that remains is to enter the current. Ancient practice. The current of rightness. Place your hand over your heart. Take a slow breath. Ask yourself, where is life already flowing for me? A memory, image, or feeling will surface. That is your current. That is your wind. That is your direction. Step into it, not with force, but with trust. Because the moment you align, life begins to carry you farther than effort ever could. Chapter 15. The Seasons of Alignment. Every soul passes through seasons, not of weather, but of becoming. These seasons are not random, nor are they signs of failure or stagnation. They are the natural rhythms of alignment, the energetic cycles that shape your evolution. To understand the seasons of alignment is to understand yourself. To fight them is to suffer. To honor them is to grow. In the ancient valley of Aveline, stories were told of a great garden tended by a silent woman known only as the keeper. No one knew how old she was, nor where she came from. Some believed she was as ancient as the valley itself. What they did know was this: her garden never failed. No matter the season, plants thrived. Even in the harsh winters, the garden seemed alive with possibility. Visitors traveled from distant lands seeking her wisdom. One such visitor was a young traveler named Elion, who arrived weary and confused. "I feel like my life has stalled," he confessed. "I used to know where I was going, but now I feel lost, empty, without direction." The keeper nodded thoughtfully and motioned for him to follow. She led him to a grand willow tree whose branches swept the earth like fingers brushing ancient memories. The tree appeared dormant, its leaves fallen, its branches bare. "Is this tree dying?" Elion asked. The keeper smiled. "No, it is resting." She placed her palm against the trunk. "This tree is as alive now as it is in spring. But this is its season of stillness, where energy gathers inward." Elion frowned, but nothing is happening. She turned to him, her eyes glowing with ageless understanding. "Everything is happening. You simply cannot see it." With a slow breath, she continued, "There are 4 seasons in the life of every soul. 1. The season of expansion. This is the golden season, where everything flows. Ideas bloom effortlessly. Opportunities unfold. Synchronicities ignite around you like scattered sparks of destiny. You feel alive, clear, invigorated. Your energy rises like spring, pulling new experiences into your orbit. But expansion is not meant to last forever. It is meant to propel you into growth. 2. The season of action. After expansion comes movement. This is the summer of your soul, where momentum fuels progress. Your dreams begin taking form. Your plans solidify. You act with confidence and clarity. During this season, life responds to your alignment with rapid pace. Your intentions manifest through action, not force. But action cannot continue without pause. Every river needs a bend. Every breath needs an exhale. 3. The season of dissolution. This is the season most people fear. It arrives when structures that no longer serve your growth begin to crumble. Relationships shift. Plans dissolve. Old identities shed like leaves in autumn. Elion's shoulders sank as she spoke. "This," he whispered, "feels like my season." The keeper nodded. "Yes, but dissolution is not destruction. It is clearing. When the soul needs space for what comes next, life removes what is misaligned. This can feel like loss, but it is preparation. Just as trees release their leaves so new ones may grow, you must let go of what cannot accompany your next chapter. 4. The season of stillness. This is the winter of the soul, the quiet, internal season, where nothing seems to happen, but everything is taking root. No momentum, no clarity, no spark. People often mistake this season for failure or stagnation. But winter is not barren, it is sacred. This is the season Elion feared the most. "What do I do in this season?" he asked. The keeper placed a hand over his heart. "You rest, you listen, you gather your strength, and you trust the unseen." She led him to a patch of earth that appeared completely barren. "What do you see?" "Nothing," he said, but she shook her head. "Look deeper." She handed him a small tool to gently scrape the surface. Beneath the soil, tiny sprouts curled like sleeping children, preparing to break through in spring. "Life is always happening beneath the stillness," she said. "Your soul is preparing you, even when you feel lost." Elion felt tears rise. His season of emptiness was not punishment, it was transformation. The rhythm of alignment. The keeper continued. "Every season is necessary. Every season is sacred. Expansion teaches you vision. Action teaches you courage. Dissolution teaches you release. Stillness teaches you trust." She leaned close. "You feel lost because you are in a season that requires surrender, not movement." Elion whispered. "How do I know when one season ends and another begins?" The keeper smiled. "You will feel the shift. The same way the earth knows when winter becomes spring." She placed a single seed into his hand. "Plant this. Tend to it through each season. It will teach you everything you need to know." As he walked away, Elion whispered into the wind, "I accept my season." And in that acceptance, he felt alignment begin again. Ancient practice. The season invocation. Sit quietly. Place your hand on your heart and ask, "What season is my soul in right now?" Do not think, feel. Once you sense the answer, whisper, "I honor this season. I do not rush it. I do not fear it. I trust its timing." Because alignment is not a straight line, it is a cycle. And every cycle brings you closer to who you are becoming. Chapter 16. The power of micro-realignments. Most people believe transformation requires massive action, dramatic leaps, radical choices, lightning bolt clarity. But the truth is far more gentle, far more accessible, far more magical. Your life is recalibrated through micro-realignments, tiny shifts, subtle adjustments, small decisions, repeated consistently. These micro-realignments may seem insignificant, but they hold the power to redirect the trajectory of your entire existence. In the old stone city of Delarith lived a clockmaker named Fenric. He was known for crafting timepieces of extraordinary precision. Travelers came from far lands to purchase his clocks, each one ticking with the delicate harmony of the universe itself. But Fenric carried a secret sorrow despite perfecting time on the outside. His inner world had fallen into disarray. He felt misaligned, disconnected, drifting through days he could not feel. One night, overwhelmed by a sense of aimlessness, He wandered into his workshop. Moonlight spilled across brass gears and silver springs. He sat before a half-finished clock and whispered, "Where did I lose myself?" As if in answer, an old traveler entered the shop. His presence felt strangely familiar, as though he carried centuries in his breath. "I've come for a repair," the traveler said, handing Fenric a small, tarnished pocket watch. Fenric opened it. Inside, one single gear had shifted by less than half a millimeter. "That's all?" he asked. The traveler nodded. "Even the tiniest misalignment affects the entire mechanism." Fenric adjusted the gear with the gentlest touch, barely a whisper of movement. Immediately, the watch began ticking with perfect rhythm. The traveler smiled. "You see, young clockmaker, your life is the same. It does not require dramatic repair, only small adjustments in the right places." Fenric felt the words echo inside him, like a forgotten truth. Micro-realignments are sacred every time you choose. The thought that feels more like truth, the path that feels slightly lighter, the action that brings a hint of relief, the boundary that protects your peace, the decision that honors your inner voice. You shift your entire reality by 1 degree, and 1 degree, repeated consistently, changes your destination entirely. Most people wait for clarity before acting, but clarity often arrives after micro-realignments, not before. Your soul reveals the next step only after you take the smallest one, available now. The power of 1 degree shifts. In the monastery of Artena, monks teach the principle of the 1 degree path. They say, "Turn the wheel of your life by 1 degree each day, and in 1 year you will stand in another world." Fenric began applying this wisdom. Instead of trying to overhaul his life, he realigned in the smallest ways. He spent 2 minutes each morning breathing. He repaired 1 forgotten item in his workshop. He spoke 1 truth he had been avoiding. He followed 1 intuitive nudge. He released 1 unnecessary burden. He chose 1 thought that felt like relief. At first, he felt nothing change, but slowly, subtly, rhythm returned to his heart. His clarity sharpened. His intuition awakened. His energy felt lighter, steadier, more aligned. People began asking, "What happened to you? You seem different." He smiled quietly. "I adjusted 1 gear." The ripple effect of tiny truths. The universe responds instantly to micro-realignments because they represent energetic shifts. When your energy shifts even slightly, your outer world must follow. This is why the smallest boundary changes relationships. The slightest mindset shift opens opportunities. The softest, intuitive whisper redirects your path. The tiniest choice changes your future. Small becomes significant when repeated with intention. Why micro-realignments work? Because the soul doesn't speak in grand gestures. It speaks in subtle guidance. Because your path isn't built in leaps. It's built in steps. Because transformation isn't a hurricane. It's a gentle, consistent breeze. Because your alignment isn't waiting for the perfect moment. It's waiting for the smallest opening. And you give it that opening every time you choose truth over habit. Fenric's realization. One night, as Fenric adjusted the final gear on a clock that chimed like starlight, he felt an overwhelming sense of belonging to himself, to his path, to his inner rhythm. He whispered, "It was never about reinventing my life. It was about remembering it 1 small shift at a time." Ancient practice. The 1 degree shift. Sit quietly. Place your hand on your heart. Ask, what 1 small choice can I make today to realign my life? It may be a single breath, a simple boundary, a moment of honesty, a few minutes of stillness, choosing rest over obligation, choosing truth over fear. Whatever arises, honor it. Because your life is not transformed in an instant, it is transformed in increments. Your future shifts not by force, but by one degree of alignment at a time. Chapter 17. The frequency of authenticity. There is a frequency that rises within you whenever you stop performing and begin becoming. A vibration that hums beneath your ribs whenever you speak your truth, honor your desires, or take even the smallest step toward who you really are. This is the frequency of authenticity, the resonance of your unfiltered soul. Before the world taught you to shape-shift for approval, before you learned to contort yourself to fit expectations, before you silenced your voice for fear of judgment, you lived in this frequency naturally. Authenticity was not something you tried to embody. It was simply your way of existing. But over time, life teaches you to dim. It teaches you to adjust, to play roles, to fit molds, to hide the parts of yourself that others might reject. And, with each compromise, each performance, each deviation from your inner truth, your frequency drifts further from its natural state. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you forgot who you were before the noise. In the sapphire mountains of Idrilos lived a candle maker named Sarah. Her candles burned longer than any others, glowed brighter, filled rooms with an essence people swore carried healing properties. But she held a private wound, the belief that who she truly was would never be accepted. Sarah was gifted with an intuitive sensitivity that many dismissed as odd. She could feel emotions in the air like changes in weather. She could sense truth beneath words. She could see potential paths unfolding before others took their first step. As a child, she shared these insights freely until mockery taught her to hide. By adulthood, she had learned to speak carefully, behave predictably, and silence her intuitive knowing. Her candles remained luminous, but her soul grew dim. One winter evening, while gathering herbs beneath the full moon, she encountered a wandering monk whose cloak shimmered in the moonlight. He watched her with eyes both gentle and piercing. "You carry light," he said softly, "yet you hide the flame." Sarah stiffened. "I don't know what you mean." The monk tilted his head. "You craft candles that glow with authenticity, yet you yourself live in a half-light." Her breath caught in her chest. "How could you know that?" The monk walked to a nearby spring, its surface reflecting the moon like liquid silver. "Look," he said, gesturing for her to peer into the water. Sarah knelt. At first she saw only her reflection, tired eyes, steady hands, the familiar face she had learned to hold together for others. But then something shifted. Her reflection flickered, glowed, brightened. The woman in the water was radiant, her aura luminous, her posture unguarded, her expression full of quiet power. "This," the monk whispered, "is who you are when you stop hiding." Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. "I lost her," she whispered. "No," he said, "you only buried her beneath the expectations of others. But the authentic self never dies. It waits." The monk placed a hand on her shoulder. Authenticity is not a performance. It is a homecoming, the price of disconnection. When you abandon your authenticity, life becomes heavy. Not because responsibility increases, but because you must carry the weight of pretending to be fine, pretending to be smaller, pretending to agree, pretending to fit a mold you never chose. These small betrayals accumulate, creating dissonance between who you are and who you present to the world. Dissonance is energetic friction. Friction drains your vitality, dims your intuition, and blocks your alignment. When you are authentic, your energy flows effortlessly. When you are not, your energy tangles within itself. Authenticity is a frequency, not an identity. Many think authenticity means, "This is who I am," fixed and unmoving. But authenticity is fluid, evolving, expanding with every lesson, every season, every shift of your soul. It is not a rigid truth, it is a living one. It is the resonance that arises when your inner self and outer expression match. Even the smallest moment of authenticity raises your frequency. A truth spoken, a boundary set, a desire admitted, a dream defended, a need honored. Authenticity aligns you with your destiny because it aligns you with your soul. Sira's return. The monk guided Sira to light one of her own candles beside the spring. The flame flickered, dancing as though aware of her shifting awareness. "Speak," the monk instructed. Sira hesitated. "What do I say?" "Speak one truth you've hidden from the world." She took a shaking breath. "I see things," she whispered. "I feel things that others don't. And I've been afraid of being misunderstood." The flame steadied, glowing brighter. "Again," the monk said, "I want a life that reflects who I am, not who others expect me to be." The flame blazed. Her whole body vibrated with resonance. Sira realized in that moment that authenticity is not a risk, it is an awakening. The monk nodded. "You have returned to your frequency. Ancient practice, the flame of authenticity. Sit in stillness. Imagine a small flame glowing within your chest. Whisper, 'Show me where I have dimmed.' A memory or sensation will rise. Then whisper, 'I reclaim this part of me.' Feel the flame expand, your frequency rising. Authenticity is not an act of courage. It is an act of remembrance. The world does not need your performance, it needs your presence." Chapter 18. The Magnetic Power of Integrity. There is a force in the universe that few truly understand, a force more potent than effort, more precise than manifestation techniques, more transformative than intention alone. That force is integrity, not moral perfection, not rigid adherence to rules, not self-righteousness. Integrity is alignment between your inner truth and your outer life. It is the energetic coherence that arises when your thoughts, words, actions, and desires vibrate on the same frequency. A person in integrity becomes magnetic to opportunities, to clarity, to abundance, to love, to destiny. Because the universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are congruent with. And integrity is congruence made visible. In a vast desert kingdom lived a merchant named Naveen. He was admired for his intelligence and known for his success, yet his heart lived in turmoil. Every night he lay awake, troubled by an inner conflict he could not name. For Naveen had built his life carefully, but not truthfully. He had married the woman his parents approved of, not the one his heart chose. He had taken over the family business instead of pursuing the healing arts he felt called to. He had mastered the art of speaking what others wanted to hear, rather than what he truly believed. His life was polished but hollow. One evening, desperate for clarity, Naveen sought the guidance of the Oracle of Zarthus, an elderly woman who lived atop a cliff overlooking the desert sands. Her hut was simple, her presence ancient, her eyes bright with fierce truth. When Naveen explained his turmoil, she simply asked, "Does your life match your soul?" Naveen felt the question strike him like a bolt of lightning. He whispered, "No." The oracle nodded. "That is why nothing flows. You are living out of integrity with yourself." She led him to a massive stone bowl, filled with desert sand. "Write one truth in the sand," she said, "that you have been afraid to admit." Naveen hesitated. His entire life had been built upon pleasing others, never himself. But with trembling fingers, he wrote, "I want a different life." The sand glowed faintly, as though reacting to the honesty of the confession. "Again," she instructed. "Another truth." He wrote, "I am tired of betraying myself." The sand brightened. The oracle smiled. "Truth is your power, and every truth you suppress fractures your energy." Naveen's breath shook. He felt something inside him crack, a long-held illusion, breaking apart. Integrity as energetic coherence. When your actions contradict your truth, your energy splits. When your words contradict your feelings, your vibration distorts. When your outer life contradicts your inner knowing, alignment collapses. This fragmentation creates anxiety, confusion, stagnation, loss of intuition, loss of clarity, exhaustion, because the soul cannot support a life built on its own suppression. Integrity restores this fragmentation. It brings your energy into a singular, powerful resonance. When you live in integrity, you feel lighter, you think. Clearer you attract. Faster you decide. Easier you stop questioning your path. You become magnetic. Integrity is not about morality. It is about energetic alignment. The path back to yourself. The oracle guided Naveen to a well at the edge of the cliff. "Look," she said. He gazed into the water. The reflection was blurry, distorted, hard to recognize. "This is your life out of alignment," she said. She handed him a stone. "Speak one truth into the water." Naveen whispered, "I want to heal others, not sell to them." He dropped the stone. The water rippled, then cleared. He gasped. The reflection sharpened. "One more," the oracle said. Naveen breathed deeply. "I want to choose my life for myself." He dropped another stone. The water cleared again, revealing a reflection that looked more like him than ever before. "You see," she said, "every truth you speak brings you closer to yourself. Integrity restores your reflection." Naveen fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The oracle placed a hand on his shoulder. When your outer life matches your inner truth, the universe matches your vibration. Integrity is magnetic. People think manifestation requires effort, but the strongest manifestation happens when you become energetically coherent. When your life aligns with your truth, paths open, people arrive, opportunities converge, synchronicities multiply, momentum accelerates. Integrity draws destiny to you because integrity anchors your vibration into your authentic timeline. Naveen's return. When he returned home, Naveen began making small shifts, micro-realignments rooted in integrity. He spoke honestly. He admitted his desires. He made decisions based on resonance, not obligation. He stopped shaping himself to fit others. He followed the quiet pull of his heart, and his life transformed. Doors he had forced for years opened on their own. His soul-guided path unfolded with uncanny ease. People who matched his truth appeared like constellations aligning, because he had returned to integrity, and integrity returned him to his power. Ancient practice, the mirror of truth. Stand before a mirror. Look into your own eyes. Whisper, "Where am I out of alignment with myself?" A feeling will rise, a memory, a truth. Honor it. Then whisper, "I choose integrity." Watch your reflection sharpen not physically, but energetically. Integrity is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to who you have always been. Chapter 19. The Emotional Tuning Fork. Every soul carries an instrument not carved from wood nor shaped from metal, but woven from pure feeling. This inner instrument vibrates with every emotion you experience, resonating like a tuning fork struck by the universe itself. Most people underestimate the power of emotion. They treat it as an inconvenience to manage or a storm to survive. They label emotions as positive or negative, as if the soul speaks in crude categories. But emotion is not a reaction. It is revelation. It is your guidance system, your barometer of alignment, your internal navigation tool that tells you with exquisite accuracy whether your energy is moving toward your path or away from it. In the starlit city of Rael lived a young astronomer named Lucien. He spent his days charting constellations and tracing the movements of celestial bodies, believing that the secrets of his destiny were hidden in the sky. He studied the orbits of moons, the rhythm of eclipses, the shifting of seasons. Yet, despite all the precision of his science, his life felt directionless. One night, Consumed by frustration, Lucien climbed the tallest tower of the observatory and shouted into the wind, "Why can't I see my path? Where is my clarity?" His voice echoed across the darkened city. A moment later, a soft glow appeared beside him. An elderly woman stood there draped, in robes the color of warm dusk, her eyes bright as constellations yet uncharted. "You look to the stars for direction," she said, "yet the map you seek is inside you." Lucien frowned. "I trust what I can measure, what I can prove." She touched her hand to her chest. "And yet, your soul measures by feeling, not by sight." She led him down the tower steps into a quiet chamber lit by a single lantern. In the room stood a peculiar instrument, a tuning fork larger than any Lucien had seen, crafted of crystal that shimmered like frozen moonlight. "This," she whispered, "is the emotional tuning fork." Lucien's breath caught. "What does it do?" "It resonates with the truth of your being." She struck the fork lightly. It emitted a tone low, sorrowful, aching. "This," she said, "is what your soul feels right now." Lucien felt tears burn his eyes. He hadn't admitted his unhappiness to anyone. He had buried it beneath logic, discipline, and perfection. "How could it know?" he whispered. "Because emotion is never silent," she said, "only ignored." She guided him to place his hand on the tuning fork. Immediately, the tone shifted, growing clearer, brighter, more harmonious. "What changed?" Lucien asked. "You allowed yourself to feel," she replied. "And emotion, when acknowledged, returns you to alignment. Emotion is your first language. Before words, before logic, before conditioning, you navigated by feeling. You knew when something felt right, not because someone told you, but because your body opened like a flower in spring. You knew when something felt misaligned, not because you had evidence, but because your heart constricted like a door quietly closing. Emotion is your soul speaking in sensations. When something feels expansive, it is a yes. When something feels heavy, it is a no. When something feels anxious, it is dissonance. When something feels calm, it is truth. Emotion is not the problem. Resistance to emotion is. The misunderstanding of feeling. Most people don't listen to their emotions. They suppress them, dismiss them, distrust them, judge them. They believe emotions are obstacles to overcome rather than instruments to tune. But emotions are not asking to be controlled. They're asking to be acknowledged. Every emotion arises to teach you something. Fear shows you where you're out of resonance. Joy shows you where you're aligned. Sadness shows you where you've outgrown. Anger shows you where boundaries were crossed. Restlessness shows you where your soul is calling. Inspiration shows you where your future awaits. Emotions do not mislead. They reveal. Lucien's turning point. The woman handed Lucien a smaller tuning fork. "Strike it," she instructed. He did. It produced a wavering, uncertain tone. "This," she said, "is what happens when you choose paths that contradict your heart." She touched the crystal gently. The tone transformed, clear, steady, vibrant. "And this is what happens when your choices match your truth." Lucien realized then that he'd been chasing a life built by calculations, not by resonance. The stars he studied so meticulously were never meant to reveal his path. They were meant to inspire him to look inward. He fell to his knees. "I've been living out of tune," he whispered. The woman knelt beside him. "Then tune yourself, not with your mind, with your emotions." Emotional alignment unlocks everything. When you honor your emotional truth, your intuition amplifies your clarity, sharpens your path, reveals itself. Your energy strengthens. Your manifestation accelerates. Because emotion is energy in motion. It is your vibration made audible. To ignore emotion is to silence your compass. To listen to emotion is to walk directly into alignment. Ancient practice, the tuning ritual place, one hand on, your heart, the other on your solar plexus. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Do not judge the feeling. Do not analyze it. Simply name it. Then whisper, "Thank you for guiding me." Feel the shift, subtle but unmistakable. Emotion is not your adversary. It is your tuning fork. And when your emotions resonate with truth, your entire life shifts into harmony. Chapter 20. The shift from seeking to allowing. There comes a moment in the spiritual journey when the seeker becomes exhausted, not from the lack of progress, but from the effort of constant striving. You search for signs. You search for clarity. You search for purpose. You search for alignment. But seeking, when rooted in fear, creates a subtle but powerful message. I do not yet have what I need. Seeking is a vibration of lack, a frequency of distance between you and your desire, a signal that says the universe must deliver something missing. But the universe does not respond to longing, it responds to alignment. And alignment arises not through seeking, but through allowing. In the desert kingdom of Hallam, there lived a wanderer named Shael, who spent years searching for his destiny. He traveled across scorching dunes, through ancient markets, over caravan trails, and wind-carved canyons, always chasing the next oasis of enlightenment. He consulted prophets, healers, mystics, astrologers, each offering a different path, a different instruction, a different promise. Yet the more he sought, the further away his destiny seemed. One night, exhausted from endless searching, Shael collapsed beneath a lone acacia tree. The moon hung above him like a silver eye, watching with quiet knowing. As he drifted into restless sleep, he dreamed of a vast river, endless, flowing, serene. He stepped into it, pushing against the current, struggling to reach some unseen shore. But the harder he pushed, the more the river resisted. A voice came from the water. "Stop seeking. Let the river carry you." When he surrendered, his body rose effortlessly, carried forward with gentle momentum toward a radiant horizon. Shael awoke with the voice lingering in his chest. At dawn, he found a small hut near the acacia tree, inhabited by an old sage known simply as Akem. "Why do you look troubled?" Akem asked. Shael told him everything, the searching, the exhaustion, the dream. Akem nodded with a serene smile. "You have lived as a seeker," he said, "but not as an allower." Shael frowned. "What does that mean?" Akem motioned for him to sit beside a shallow bowl of water. "Look." Shael bent over the bowl. His reflection shimmered. "This water is your life," Akem said. "When you seek, you stir it." He dipped his fingers in, creating ripples that distorted the reflection. You cannot see clearly when you are in constant motion within yourself. Then Akem removed his hand. Slowly, the beck of liver, water began to still. The reflection returned. "When you allow," he said, "life becomes clear. Your path rises to meet you. Your destiny reveals itself without force." Shael felt something loosen in his chest, a knot he had carried for years. Seeking comes from fear. Allowing comes from trust. Seeking says, "I must find it. I must do more. I am incomplete. I am far from where I need to be." Allowing says, "It is already on its way. I am guided. I am supported. My path unfolds in perfect timing." Seeking is force. Allowing is flow. Why allowing works? Because your path is not something you chase. It is something you align with. The moment you soften, the moment you breathe, the moment you relax your grip, you shift your frequency from scarcity to receptivity. And in receptivity, the universe can finally deliver. Clarity enters. Synchronicities ignite. Opportunities approach. People appear. Momentum begins. Not because you hunted them, but because you opened to them. Shael's transformation. Under Akem's guidance, Shael practiced allowing. He released his timelines. He stopped chasing signs. He stopped forcing answers. He trusted that what was meant for him was already moving toward him. The shift was subtle at first, a feeling of lightness, a quieting of the mind, a softening of the heart. Then it became unmistakable. People came to him with invitations. Paths opened without effort. Dreams he once chased found him with perfect timing. One evening, Shael asked Arquem, "How did everything change so quickly?" Arquem smiled. "You stopped seeking like a beggar and began receiving like the universe's equal." Shael felt tears fill his eyes. He finally understood. His destiny was never something he needed to pursue. It was something he needed to allow. Ancient practice, the surrendered breath. Sit quietly. Place your hands on your thighs. Relax your shoulders. Inhale deeply, as if pulling the entire world into your lungs. Exhale slowly, as if releasing every ounce of resistance. Whisper, "I allow what is meant for me to find me." Feel the surrender, soften your energy. Feel the openness expand your field. In this state, life rearranges itself around your readiness. Because the universe does not respond to the pressure of your seeking, it responds to the openness of your allowing. Chapter 21. Becoming the Signal. There is a turning point in every spiritual journey when you stop trying to attract what you want and begin becoming what you want. When your energy no longer reaches outward in longing or effort, but radiates outward in certainty and embodiment. When you no longer ask for your path to reveal itself, because you have become the very frequency that shapes it. This is the moment you become the signal, not the seeker, not the chaser, not the asker, but the transmitter. Your energy becomes the lighthouse. Your clarity becomes the beacon. Your alignment becomes the magnet. The universe does not grant your desires as rewards. It reflects your signal as resonance. And the moment your internal frequency stabilizes into coherence, your external world reorganizes itself to match it. In the floating city of Vashira, a place where crystal bridges shimmered in the air and golden towers rose like sunbeams, turned to stone, there lived an architect named Aelion. He was brilliant, gentle, introspective. His designs were breathtaking. Buildings that curved like wind, structures that glowed like moonlit shells, towers that sang with the breeze. Yet Aelion lived with the quiet ache of unfulfilled dreams. For years, he had petitioned the Grand Council for permission to design the Great Orion Spire, a structure destined to become the city's central beacon of unity. He submitted plans, refined drawings, pleaded with elders, and hoped endlessly. But the answer was always the same. Not yet, not you, not now. One evening, feeling more defeated than ever, Aelion sat alone by the glass canals that wound through Vashira. The water glowed with soft turquoise light, a natural phenomenon of the city's enchanted minerals. He whispered into the stillness, "What more must I do? Why can't I receive what I desire?" A ripple spread across the water, then another, and another, not from wind, but as if something beneath the surface was rising. Moments later, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows and sat beside him. "You ask the wrong question," the figure said. Aelion startled. "Who are you?" "A mirror," the stranger replied calmly. "Nothing more." Aelion frowned. "What do you mean?" The stranger dipped a finger into the glowing water. The ripples twisted into patterns, circles, spirals, shifting vibrations. "What you desire is not blocked," the figure said. "It is simply not matching your signal." Aelion blinked. "My signal? Yes. You design with genius, but you radiate with doubt. You create with brilliance, but you broadcast with fear. You ask for grand opportunities while transmitting unworthiness." The ripples intensified. "You do not receive what you want," the stranger continued. "You receive what you are in energetic conversation with." The water pulsed like a heartbeat. "You have tried everything except the only thing that matters, becoming the frequency of the one who already has what you ask for." Alien felt the truth strike him like lightning. "You mean, I must feel it first?" The stranger smiled beneath the hood. "Not feel, become. Becoming the signal means embodiment. The desires of your soul are not random whims. They are frequencies calling you into alignment with your next evolution. You do not attract things from the outside. You attune to them from the inside. To become the signal means acting as the version of you who already lives the life you desire. Thinking like them, feeling like them, choosing like them, speaking like them, releasing what they have outgrown, holding boundaries they would hold, walking with the certainty they embody. When you stabilize this inner identity, your life reconfigures to match it, because reality is not separate from you, it is shaped by you. You are the broadcaster. Life is the listener. Alien's transformation. For the next month, Alien did something he had never done before. He stopped asking. He stopped hoping. He stopped waiting. He began being. He woke each morning and imagined himself as the architect the council trusted. He moved through the city with quiet confidence. He spoke with clarity instead of hesitation. He carried himself with presence instead of shrinking. He began designing not with fear of rejection, but with the embodiment of someone chosen. He didn't wait for external proof. He became the proof. And the more he embodied this version of himself, the more his environment shifted. Conversations changed. People noticed him differently. Opportunities approached instead of evading him. His energy became unmistakable, steady, certain, luminous. One morning, without warning, 2 council members visited his studio. "We've reviewed your latest design," they said. "It carries a resonance we cannot ignore. The spire is yours to build. You have become the architect Vashira has been waiting for." Alien bowed, but inside, he was not surprised, because he had already become the version of himself who knew this moment was inevitable. Becoming the signal is the final turning point. You no longer search for signs, you create them. You no longer chase opportunities, you attract them. You no longer hope for alignment, you embody it. This is the essence of true manifestation, not the accumulation of desires, but the evolution of identity. Ancient practice, the embodiment invocation. Sit in silence. Place your hand on your heart. Imagine the version of you who already lives your desired future. Ask, what is one thing this version of me would no longer tolerate? Release it. What is one thing this version of me would choose? Choose it. Whisper, I am the signal now. Let the frequency settle. Let your identity shift. Because when you become the signal, the world rearranges itself to meet you. Chapter 22. Living from the frequency of knowing. There is a rare and sacred state of being, a way of walking through life, not with doubt or hesitation, but with deep, quiet certainty. A certainty that does not need signs to confirm it. A certainty that does not crumble under delay. A certainty that whispers, I know who I am. I know what I am meant for. I know what is unfolding. I know my path cannot miss me. This is the frequency of knowing, not belief, not hope, not positive thinking. Knowing, it is the deepest alignment. A soul can hold the vibrational state where your inner truth becomes unshakable reality. In the mist-covered land of Ithrion, where ancient temples shimmered like mirages at dawn, there lived a priestess named Leora. People traveled from kingdoms afar to seek her counsel, for Leora possessed a gift rarely seen, the ability to walk through life with unwavering knowing. Her students often asked her, how do you never doubt? How do you always trust? How do you walk with such certainty? Leora would simply smile. I do not wait for the world to confirm my truth, she said. I carry my truth so clearly that the world has no choice but to follow. One day, a young initiate named Aaron approached her, eyes clouded with worry. Priestess, he said, I feel pulled toward a path, But I am terrified of choosing wrong. I seek signs, yet I find only silence. Leora placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Silence is not absence, she said, softly. It is invitation. She led Aaron into the Hall of Echoes, a vast chamber carved entirely of obsidian stone. The walls reflected their shapes like pools of black water, warping and bending with the slightest change in light. Speak, she instructed him. Tell the hall your intention. Aaron swallowed hard. I want to walk the path meant for me, he whispered. His voice echoed, but distorted, scattered, uncertain. Again, Leora said. But speak from your knowing, not your fear. Aaron closed his eyes, slowed his breath, centered himself. This time, he spoke from deeper within. I know I am meant for more. The hall vibrated. His voice echoed back clearly resonant and whole. Aaron opened his eyes in awe. What changed? Leora smiled. You spoke from your center, not your doubt. Knowing comes from within. The mind seeks proof. The soul generates certainty. Knowing is an inner frequency, not an external validation. It arises when your intuition is louder than your fear. Your embodiment is stronger than your doubt. Your alignment is deeper than your confusion. Your truth is more constant than your circumstances. When you live from knowing, you stop chasing signs because you become the sign. Your energy speaks before words do. Your certainty shapes outcomes. Your inner frequency directs your path. Why knowing is so powerful? Knowing collapses timelines. When you hold a frequency of certainty, you bypass the energetic noise of doubt and indecision. You send a clear signal, a stable vibration, a steady directive to the universe. Knowing says, this is already true. I am simply living into the timeline where it becomes visible. And the universe responds in kind. Because the universe does not create your destiny, it mirrors your frequency. Aaron's realization. Leora guided Aaron into a smaller chamber where a bowl of water sat perfectly still. This water, she said, is your life. She dropped a single pebble. The water rippled outward in concentric circles. When your belief wavers, your energy ripples in every direction, chaotic, fragmented, unfocused. Aaron nodded slowly. But when you enter the frequency of knowing, she placed her palm gently above the water, not touching it, simply emanating presence. The water stilled, calmed, cleared. Nothing shakes you, she said. Not because the world stops moving, but because you stop being moved by the world. Aaron felt something in his chest ignite a flame, long dormant. Teach me to live this way, he whispered. You already know how, Leora said. You simply forgot. Living from knowing changes everything. When you live from knowing, decisions feel effortless. Doubt dissolves. Clarity sharpens. Manifestation accelerates. Opportunities come with precision. Obstacles lose their power. Timing feels divine rather than delayed. Knowing is the end of spiritual struggle and the beginning of spiritual embodiment. It is the state where you no longer negotiate with fear. You no longer dilute your truth. You no longer hesitate at the threshold of your destiny. You walk as someone who remembers. The moment Aaron became the knower. Weeks later, Leora brought Aaron to the top of Ethrion's tallest temple. The wind whipped around them like wild poetry. The world stretched out beneath them. What do you feel? She asked. Aaron closed his eyes. The wind calmed. The fear softened. A quiet certainty rose from within like dawn. I know I am ready, he whispered. Leora nodded. You have entered the frequency of knowing. And in that moment, Aaron felt it, the shift from seeker to sovereign, from student to creator, from wanderer to knower. His life forever changed. Ancient practice, the knowing breath. Close your eyes, slow your breath. Place your hand over your heart and whisper, I know. Say it again, deeper, I know. Feel the vibration settle into your bones, into your cells, into your field. Ask, what truth have I been afraid to admit? Let the knowing rise. Then whisper, I choose the timeline where this truth is real. Feel the shift subtle but unmistakable. Knowing is not a feeling, not a thought, not a belief. It is a frequency. And when you live from it, your entire reality transforms to match it.